in to the OKS Youth Ministry Podcast. My name is Jeremy Crow, and I am joined today by Hunter Puckett and a special guest, Charles Elliott. We are in the beautiful, gorgeous Gaylord Opryland Hotel and Convention
Definitely
Center.
hotel.
And Hotel and Convention Center. It ain't a motel. But we are here.
My door's on the inside.
You hear lots of background noise. That is the fountains. You'll hear people walking by. We are set up at a vendor booth, and man, we're just killing it. And so
I'm fun. Booth looks good. Jeremy killed it with the booth.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So we're excited. We've got our new banner behind us. We feel really official. If you well, you won't hear this, but if you're at Lads Leaders and you want to come out and see us, come on. But you won't hear this till later. So we're here with Charles Elliott. Charles is the assistant to the regional director. No, he's the assistant convention director. Is that the right?
I'm one of the assistant convention directors.
One of the assistant. That sounds less important.
It does.
Can we get one of the other ones to come in? Okay.
Gladly.
All right. So he's the assistant convention director at the Nashville Convention of the Lads to Leaders organization. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to pick your brain a little bit and let you tell us maybe a little bit about your experiences with Lads Leaders. But if you would, start by just telling us what your first engagement with Lads Leaders was when you first got involved with that.
So I believe, because y'all work with the youths. And so I would be considered an old. Because my first year doing Lads was in 1993. And so we came to the hotel when there was no Delta. It was, I mean, we were still competing at Lipscomb back in the day.
I remember that.
And so my first year in 93, I just did like an audio speech back when there was a category called mass media. For those of you that are really old and remember mass media.
Yes.
So I did an audio speech and I did puppets in 93. And then in 94, I started doing speech and song leading and continued on with puppets and some other categories. And so then from there, did that until I graduated high school. Well, so y'all are used to doing podcasts.
Yeah, you get up in there close.
Yeah. And just really
and
the
only reason I'm saying that is because there's so much background noise with the fountains. It makes a difference.
Okay. So back in 1993, in 93 I did a little bit, and then 94 through when I graduated high school, I was kind of fully enmeshed in what Lads was doing.
Yeah. So Hunter, did you grow up in Lads Leaders?
Not as much as most people. I went maybe 1 or 2 years, but it wasn't every single year.
So I remember what you're talking about, Charles. When I was growing up, I grew up going to Lipscomb, and like the kids now are like, I can't get to all my events. I'm like, man, we had to leave the hotel and drive across town, and you didn't like go back and forth. You stayed there all day. They served lunch over there. I remember doing speeches and song leading in that space.
I was at Lipscomb one year for song leading in 4th grade. We were in the Granny White Church of Christ with no air conditioning.
I love that.
So windows are open, and like if it's 4th graders, there's like 11 billion of them. And so we were packed into the church with just windows open, hoping for a breeze.
No breakout room. There's all 11 billion of them had to go at one time.
11 billion.
Oh, there were breakout rooms, but it's like you're in the classroom right next door, and everybody's leading anywhere with Jesus. And so I don't
and
know.
None of them are on the same pitch.
And I don't know if I'd heard that song until I got to Lads in 94, but by the time it was over, it was just like
ingrained.
Can Jesus take me anywhere but
other than
anywhere but here right now?
Jesus take
anywhere but the next person that leads that song.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: what got you into kind of this leadership role with Lads Leaders here in Nashville?
So my father-in-law is the convention director, and I've been his understudy for the last several years. And so what got him involved in Lads, he was the group leader at Beltline Church of Christ, my home church, then and now. And he was the group leader there, and then he was asked by Philip Hines to kind of enter into a role as his understudy to be a convention director. And so his name is Blake McAnally. And so Blake and I went to Memphis, and we were in Memphis for a few years. Right. And then Blake was asked to come to Nashville, and I followed along with him. And then 2 years ago, my oldest started getting involved in Lads to Leaders at Beltline. Or I guess she may have done some pre-K through 2 events. And so now she's in the program, and my 7-year-old and 5-year-old are doing some pre-K through 2nd grade events this year.
So I'll tell you this, man. This year I'm helping in some roles that I haven't before, and so I got to be in the room where it happens last night and see some of the kind of backdoor of all that goes on with the planning and the organization of this program. I got to see the people that are like the event leaders and all the coordinators and all the directors of the convention center, and it was incredible. And for me, one of the moving moments was seeing Blake have this moment where he prayed over the work that these people are doing and telling them how much he appreciates what they bring to the table. And it was a cool moment. He got a little emotional, very meaningful, and so it meant a lot to me to see his heart come out in that. It's a huge program. I cannot fathom having to make sure all the wheels keep turning, all the plates keep spinning, but he's doing a great job with it, and so we really appreciate it. I have to ask real quick before we I don't want to go too far past your childhood. Let's go back. Did you ever win in any category first place?
Yes.
What did you win?
Puppets, speech, song leading. I think that audio speech I did in 3rd grade. And then there were a smattering of years where we did storyline, and I don't recall how we did in storyline.
Yeah. One of the things that we often, I forgot storyline. Does that still exist?
No.
Yeah, that's gone.
We've replaced it with things like podcasts.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm the mass communications guy for our congregation. So I'm the one that submits all their stuff. But we have all these different programs, these different events, and for me, I think sometimes people get caught up in, I don't like that we give trophies or whatever. But man, for me, when I think about if I'm going to ask someone to be my doctor, I want someone who's taken the time to develop the skill. Obviously, I'm going to look at reviews, and I take a moment to judge, like if someone's doing well in that, right? If I ask somebody to be the preacher at a church, I'm going to take the time to ask them to be someone that is engaging, that evokes emotion out of people and wants them to be involved in worship. And so I think we get so caught up in whether we get a trophy or not, but you're really helping these kids develop and grow. So I want to ask you and Hunter also, man, what have you seen for your own experience of like things that you learned as a child at Lads to Leaders that have impacted you as an adult man with your family, with your work, with whatever it is that affected how you do things in a positive way?
I wasn't involved as much at convention at Lads Leaders growing up. I did a lot of the stuff in our home congregations, and we also, of course, traveled around to some other churches, and I got to speak and just speaking engagements. I think that's what really got me thinking about ministry to begin with, was just the speaking engagements, going to these other congregations. Now, it's a Lads Leaders speech. It's 5 minutes, not understanding that a sermon is going to be closer to 30 minutes. But it boosts your confidence. It allows you to kind of really look into that. And something cool about this that a lot of people really don't understand is I have a lot of parents and some other people might too that kind of shy away from Lads because of how competitive it is. They don't like to compete against other people. And what we don't realize is we're competing in a safe environment here at Lads. We're competing in a place where we're with other Christians. But not only that, life is a competition. I don't know if we've realized that.
Yes.
In order for us to get our jobs, when Jeremy got his job at Coleman or I got my job at Flint, we were competing against other youth ministers for this job. Other youth ministers had to lose in order for us to get this job.
And did they ever?
Well, I don't know how close it was on my end, but it's just one of these things that we don't realize, that life is a competition. Why not compete in a Christian environment where we can do the right thing? Oh, side note, Brandon Edwards is walking by.
He's one and only.
With an Ohio State shirt on.
And Jesus won.
And Jesus won, I guess,
Man, he's awesome, though. Anyways, but just realizing that life is a competition, and we might as well learn how to approach these competitions from a Christ-like way.
Okay, so there are two things I want to touch on. And so if I forget the overall safe environment, remind me of that. But one thing I want to talk about as far as the competitive side of it, because I understand folks go, well, we shouldn't be going after trophies. I get that. When I came to Lads, I wanted to do the best version that I could possibly do. I wanted to reach my ceiling as far as what I was capable of. And so, and I didn't appreciate it at the time, but when my dad was getting me up in front of Bible classes, saying my speech, or was getting me up in front of a church on a Sunday night to say my speech, when I was a 4th grader, I didn't know I was supposed to be scared of public speaking. And so
because of this.
Yeah, because of this. And so my parents were putting me in situations where I was getting up in front of crowds, in front of strangers, and giving speeches when I didn't know I was supposed to be scared of that. So when other folks, and it came time to do that school project, it wasn't a big deal to say, sure, I'll be the spokesperson for the group. That was nothing.
Yeah,
Right.
Who cares? I'll do it.
Yeah, sure.
I'd
okay.
rather do that.
That's fine.
I've been doing that for years.
Put me in front of 500 people. I don't care. I've memorized the speech and whatever. I've done it. But as far as the safe environment point, one of an incredible life lesson that everyone is going to learn at some point in their life is that life isn't fair.
That's right.
And you got to take your lumps as they come. And how do you respond to that? And I think there is no safer environment to do that in than this atmosphere. I was watching a friend of mine's child and practicing, and they stumbled over a word in their speeches. Oh, I stumbled over this word. I was like, I stumble over words all the time.
Yeah.
In my role as a judge in Alabama, and I'll be talking to juries and I'll stumble over words, and who cares?
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to remember that you tripped over a word. They're going to remember, were you passionate about what you spoke about? Did you believe in what you spoke about? Do I think I'm going to like you as a person? Those are things they're going to care about. You talk about life not being fair and kind of taking life on life's terms. So when you think about songs of praise, and you look at the score sheets and they're judged like, well, what was their appearance like? One year my sister had to step over a blind judge's seeing eye dog to get to the front of the room. And so after a person would sit down after leading the song, the person next to him's got the score sheet. Well, what did they get on this? And the judge leans over and goes, 7. What would you give her on their appearance? 6. And so like everybody in the room is here, and you go, look, life happens. Yeah. And what better place to learn how to compete and do all these things than
people who love you.
Yeah, there should be no more supportive environment than among brothers and sisters in Christ.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Well, and convention is a place where they get to show what they've been working on all year. They've been getting ready for these speeches. They've been getting ready for their songs, puppet theater, all these other events that they do. Now they get to go and they get to showcase their talents and the things that they've worked really hard on.
I was going to say, and my wife will tell you, I'm naturally competitive. Mm-hmm. I just am. If you give us a word search puzzle, me and you, like I'm going to race you.
First one done.
Like doggone it, I'm going to race you.
And
on
if you don't,
search.
I'd be disappointed.
Sure. But the thing is like there's another assistant director, and his son and I, his son's Caleb Colley. Mm-hmm. Who's done some work with Apologetics Press before and things like that. And Caleb and I knew if I want to stand a chance, I've got to do everything I can to prepare myself, because I know Caleb's going to do the exact same thing. Because so what's my ceiling? What can I do to learn how to get in front of a crowd and appear more natural and do all these things? And then I got to song leading, and it didn't matter what I did because Caleb was going to. He
was incredible.
Let me ask you this: how do you balance? You kind of mentioned you're a judge. How do you balance being a judge while also working on Lads Leader stuff?
So much of Lads, at least in the role that I have, is done pre-convention, and so it's coordinating things with the hotel.
You're just a fixer here during the weekend.
I'm a firefighter here during the weekends.
Yeah.
And so we do so much work with making sure that vendor spaces are where they need to be, and making sure that food is good, and there is a load of construction that's going on, and so coordinating with the hotel to say, okay, what event spaces are going to be available, how many new groups do we have, what space availability do we have based on the hotel, and breakout sizes and things like that. So there's a lot that goes into that, and so there's a lot of email exchange that's done with that. And then we got up here yesterday morning. We met with the hotel staff for about two hours yesterday morning, and then we met with coordinators last night. So a whole lot of stuff pre-convention to make sure that that things will run as smoothly as possible. Yeah. We know there'll be hiccups along the way, but it's what can we do to make sure that things run.
And then you put the fires out once you're done.
Exactly.
So let me point to something you said just a minute ago. It prepared you to be able to do things. Man, we've got a kid in our youth group right now at Coleman that he is not doing any of the competitive events this weekend, but he's done them for multiple years. Cameron, and this last Sunday, he was planning to co-preach with Steve, our preacher, for a Sunday morning sermon. And Steve got to working with him, and they were prepping the lesson. And Steve said, "Man, Cameron, I think you're ready to do the whole thing." And so Cameron, this last Sunday at Coleman, he preached about a 22-minute sermon. and did a fantastic job. And I had people that have no involvement or interaction with our youth ministry coming up to me and saying, that young man really did well. And Cameron obviously has some giftedness, but he also has some experience and training in doing just that for a 4.5 to 6 minute speech in these rooms here and learning how to communicate the gospel in an effective way. And for me, I've told my kids in the group, I said, I really don't care if you come away with a trophy or a medal this weekend or not. I hope you do. I'll cheer you on. But if you don't, what I do hope is that when you have that opportunity across the lunchroom table next week, that you have the confidence to say something about Jesus to someone because you've done it in front of a group of people and they encourage you to keep doing it.
Well, in addition to that, it's not just, well, we're raising, because you go, well, we're raising up the next generation of ministers. Well, okay, sure, yeah, we are, but we're raising up the next generation of boardroom members.
Yeah.
They're going to be ethical and honest in their practices. They are also going to be able to teach Sunday school classes.
Well,
and that aren't going to be, that won't be intimidated by getting up in front of a church and saying an opening prayer or praying over communion or something like that. I think we are. And I say that as far as the leadership and the impact on that. I don't mean that for just young men as well. I mean that for young ladies who are taking their knowledge that they're learning about Jesus and they're going into the workplace and they're going into their homes and saying, what can I do to impact Jesus wherever I go and whatever I do.
And what I see really coming out of this is I see not just leaders standing behind a pulpit or behind a podium, but I think of it as almost like we're doing mission work with Lads Leaders, sending kids out into churches. So one day they're going to be in a church somewhere and someone's going to say, hey, we need someone who can help with this benevolence need, or we need someone who can serve in this role to coordinate who's teaching classes on Sunday mornings, or we need whatever. And these are kids who are going to say, I'm here, right? Here am I, use me, send me. Yeah. And they're capable, they're confident to know that they've already done these things in a practiced way with Lads Leaders, and now they can do them in a meaningful way to be a blessing to the mission of the church.
I went to a church in North Carolina after I graduated from Harding. I went to Western Carolina University to get a master's degree there. And the little church I went to, it's since closed its doors, but it was not uncommon for there to be 12 people there on a Sunday night. And we were in the middle of a minister search.
Yeah.
And so it'd be like, well, hey, Charles, you preached this morning. Can you lead singing tonight? Okay, sure. Whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I've led singing before. Yeah. I've done it my whole life. No problem for me to get up and lead a song.
Well, and what you notice, too, is not everybody's cut out to be a minister, let's say, or maybe not everybody wants to get into ministry. What we do need are the Bible class teachers, are the elders, are the deacons, are the volunteers, or people like to put on this
scoop
week.
Food and serve a meal to a homeless shelter.
Someone that wants to head up song leading for Lads the Leaders.
Or host a podcast,
Yeah. I think that's really what we're seeing. We're seeing these kind of things lead into future willingness to be a part of the work that Christ is doing in his church all throughout the world. So.
Yeah.
Hey, you got anything else, Hunter?
Yeah, I have it. We're going to call this the honesty segment.
Oh, great. Hold on to your seats.
We had our elections this past year. I think I've already told you about this. You're running unopposed.
Yes.
I did not vote for you.
Oh.
I wrote my own name down.
I didn't vote for you either, but I'm not in your county. So
well, I am in your county. I wrote my own name down, and I think I had one vote at the end of it. So it was a big win for me, and it was a big win for you as well.
There was a former governor of Alabama, and he said there are two ways to run a campaign, and that's either scared or unopposed.
Yeah.
And let me just say, I really prefer the unopposed side. That is, if I had to pick, unopposed is the way to go.
Well, hey, we appreciate you.
Man.
We love you. Of course, we're in the same area with you going to Beltline, and we really enjoy Lads Leaders. We think y'all are doing a great job.
Hey, let me close this out, man. Hey, we appreciate all of you who listen. We hope that this has been a blessing for you, and we hope that your ministry is blessed.
Thanks for joining us today in the important conversation of youth ministry. Go and follow us on Instagram and check out oksyouthministry.com for more information about our upcoming episodes. We'll be dropping a new episode every Wednesday morning, and we look forward to talking with you again next week. And hey, it's okay to be the OKS youth minister around, but let's all strive to be just a little bit better.